Brandon's third question. Have you heard from Bob Burden recently? No, as a matter of fact, I was thinking that because particularly lately I've been, the issue before Baby Yoda Cerebus number 1 is Flaming Cerebus number 1. And I kept thinking, if I'm working on Flaming Cerebus number 1, that's got to connect psychically with Bob Burden at some point, and I'm going to get a phone message from Bob Burden. So I was kind of surprised when I didn't. On his Facebook this week, he revealed that he was very sick for the past month with pneumonia and ended up quarantined. He's better now, thankfully. I was going to ask David Birdsong, because he's finished Flaming Cerebus, including the front cover and inside front cover, if he could go in through Facebook or some other means and find a way to contact Bob Burden and send him Flaming Cerebus number 1. If anybody deserves to read Flaming Cerebus number 1 a year before everybody else gets to read it, it's got to be Bob Burden. And I've also been quoting Bob extensively over the last 2 weeks because I think very, very appropriate to the situation is Bob Burden's "This calls for an emergency," which I think is what we're doing. I'll be happy to be proven wrong, and I hope that this doesn't turn into something like the 1918 to 1920 Spanish flu influenza. I think this is just a garden variety flu, but then, as we saw from F. Scott Fitzgerald, Hemingway thought the Spanish flu was just the flu. So it takes a while before you can find out about those kinds of things. But yes, David Birdsong, if you're listening to this and you have some time, which we all do, could you please email Flaming Cerebus number 1 to Bob Burden with our compliments. And Jeff Seiler wants to know, my questions for Dave this month: who, what, when, where, and why? Sorry, the former journalist in me couldn't resist. Okay, so we'll go. Who? Me. What? Me! When? Now? Where? Here? Why? I have no idea, and or because. Moving on to Brian West, says, hi Dave, with hashtag stay at home, the words of the day in my home state of Kentucky. I found it interesting that there are still those who choose to dissent from the conventional wisdom of state officials here. This being that individuals and businesses must follow strict distancing guidelines and or to leave money on the table to stay at home for days, maybe even weeks at a time. Case in point is a bill filed on March 19th by House Representative Savannah L. Maddox of Dry Ridge, Kentucky, which would, in principle, limit, quote, the scope of a governor's executive orders issued during a public health emergency, unquote, and, quote, also allow Kentuckians to sue the state if an order adversely affects their business, unquote. The first one, I think, yes, definitely we want to be working on a lot of scope legislation, not only after this is over, but in the midst of it. There have to be limits on how you can again, this is, to me, the Beijing versus Washington question. Beijing has absolutely no limits on its government powers. Washington has a very, very specific limit on its government powers. You can do things for a little while, but then the foundation of a democracy is that you you can't keep doing this without the support, the votes of the elected people who have been elected to make these decisions. As someone in the National Post was pointing out, even during the lowest point of World War II, where England was really on the ropes and had no idea if if Hitler was just going to come straight across the English Channel and invade England, and all kinds of emergency measures were called for in very short order. Parliament still convened, and Winston Churchill still had to make his case for, I want these powers and I want these powers, and he would only get those powers for a specific length of time. And Parliament had to actually meet in secret because there was no way that they wanted the Luftwaffe knowing that the entire British government was in one place at a given time. So that excused secret meetings. So it wasn't actual Star Chamber stuff, although it was verging on it, and had to make his case that this is what I want to do. This is the powers that I want Parliament to devolve upon me and my government, and here's the case that I'm making for it. Usually he got exactly what he was looking for, but the point is, even when it looked like death would be raining from the skies, and the landing boats would be rolling up on the south shore of England, and tanks coming ashore, Parliament still met. We're not in anywhere near that kind of situation anywhere in North America. So it's appalling to even think that Parliament would get suspended, or as Justin Trudeau was trying to do, to get unlimited taxing authority through to the end of 2021. It's like, no, that's Beijing. That's yours and your father's muddle-headed, appalling reverence for communism, reverence that came from Pierre Trudeau's friendship with Fidel Castro. It's like, no, we don't want Canada turned into communist China because it'll make things easier for you. Because we're already pretty much at the borderline there, just because of the situation.